Hello everybody, welcome to the Friday at 6 talk show, broadcasting from the office of SAP. We are live from Berlin. Talking about big data with two travel companies, and they secretly told me before the show something that I don't know if I can reveal that. You are already talking to each other. So give it up for Tao Tao from Get Your Guide and Richard Ozinga from Tripozo.
Thanks for having us.
So don't forget to talk into the microphone. So can we close a deal here tonight that you say, okay, let's go together. You acquired Gitzy already, also a startup run by Dutch guys. Richard is also from the Netherlands. So tonight at Friday at 6, you're going to announce your second deal this year that you're going to buy Tripozo.
I think that would be super exciting, but
rather surprising.
It will also be surprising. But I think Richard, they have a grand vision, and it's about two companies having some road. And if we meet later down the road, that'd be great. But
it's too early. You cannot afford them now.
Well, I think it's about focus, right? I mean, Tripozo is trying to solve a very different problem than we are trying to do. Tripozo, I mean, I don't want to speak for you guys, but you have the travel cycle of, you dream, you plan, you book, you go, you share. And as a startup, you want to focus, as a travel startup, on one of those cycles. And we focus on a different part of that cycle than Tripozo does.
We try to focus on people that are in the destination and that are taking decisions on what to do when they are there. And one of the things they can do, of course, is they can book a tour. And then we're happy to refer that person to a company that does that whole booking process, because that's not what we do. We just try to figure out what you would be interested in and what's there to do.
Okay, but you would be open to sell your company to Get Your Guide?
To sell our company?
Yeah.
It's a rather silly question. Would they be open to selling out to us? I don't know.
Ah, okay, reverse takeover.
I think we're not talking about that right now.
Okay.
I mean, we started 2 years ago. A little bit more than a year ago, we raised a Series A. It's all very exciting what we're doing. And it would be rather strange to talk about takeover of another startup or being taken over by another startup.
Okay, but he said later down the road. So, I mean, last
well,
try.
We're in the same segment. And I can imagine that in 3, 4, 5 years, you would see that there will be clusters of companies that start working together, and that maybe one is bigger than the other, and we'll take. But that's, I don't know. That's a few years down the road, and I really don't know.
That's very hard as a startup, of course, to know where you're heading to, right?
Sure.
Or, I mean, I'm always under the impression, Tao, that you know exactly where you want to go.
Of course we do, but we do. But it's focusing on what we do well, and of course. In the travel industry, so the thing is in travel industry, you have to work with a lot of different people, because you have people strong in certain markets, strong in certain verticals, strong in certain countries, and of course you speak to everyone, you work with everyone. I think one of the things, and I'm new to travel, and Richard, I think you're also new to travel, is in the travel industry you got to work with everyone. Because there are so many different touch points. It's not like a local market. For instance, if you build, let's say, if I sell shoes in Germany, I get German inventory, I sell to Germans, I do marketing in Germany. If you do travel, you have to do, I don't know, Dutch customers going to Rome out of Berlin. And that means I may have to work with a Dutch company trying to get me customers, and maybe work with someone who knows more about something in a different place.
Aha, okay, that was still why you were talking, and why that doesn't necessarily leads to a fusion or a get-together?
Well, I think there are many ways to do business, right? I think ultimately the reason to take over a company or to merge, it means someone is doing something that you want to be doing, but you are doing worse. And ultimately, I think we're focusing on different things. So it's just too premature.
Okay, I understand. Richard,
yeah.
What did you do before you started Tripozo?
Before I started Tripozo, I had an internet consultancy firm in Amsterdam. And my brother and co-founder, Douwe, was working for Google at that time. And we've had an internet startup, travel related, so I'm not completely new. A few years back. We started in 2000, we sold the company in 2004 to Internet Brands when Douwe went on to work for Google. I mean, I've always been very passionate about travel. I love to do it myself, but I also love to think about how it's done best and how you can help people do it in a better way and how you can collect data to help people do it in a better way. And I think the same applies for Douwe. So when he was working for Google, we kept on talking about, and we saw what happened to our startup that we sold, which was just ignored a little bit.
You sold it to Google?
To internet brands. They bought WikiTravel and World66, which was the startup we started, which were the two biggest wiki in the travel sphere. And they ended up focusing on WikiTravel, which is their decision. But as a founder, you then look at that and you say, okay, well, why did we sell? Anyway, we had good reasons to sell.
I imagine, yeah.
Yeah. At a certain point, Douwe was in Sydney working for Google, and he was doing Google Wave. And I don't know if you remember Google Wave. It was like the most exciting...
Who remembers Google Wave here?
It was like
people do remember it, but...
Yeah, it was like the most exciting thing ever. And no one quite got it.
Yeah.
And then they killed it. Google said, we're going to discontinue the service. So the Google Wave team in Sydney was like really sad because they loved building that product. And around that time, I flew to Sydney to talk to Douwe and say, we're going to do something in travel because it had changed a lot since we did World66. You have mobile devices that are so powerful. You have a lot of other companies that collect data, that do the wiki stuff that when we started, there was no Wikipedia when we started with World66. Now there's Wikipedia, there's WikiTravel, there's lots of other social travel sites. So we started from the point that like all the data is out there. And our job is really to collect it and to find out what is relevant for you at a certain moment.
Yeah, and we are talking about big data today. You just said, okay, I love to work with big, large data sets. But from what I understood from big data, which is not a lot, I must admit. But I mean, as soon as it gets too complicated and you don't understand anymore, then it becomes big data. But is travel really big data?
Well, I wouldn't say that what we do is big data. We collect data from a lot of different sources. And if you put it all together, it's like a few hundred gigabytes. So it's not huge, but it's very complicated. It's complicated data because it's very unstructured. And what we need to do takes a lot of time. We need to find out, okay, there's this traveler who writes about that place. There's Wikipedia that says this is over there. And some of these things may be wrong. Someone may have taken a picture and have the wrong coordinates. So it's very complicated data that we do. And so we need the same tools as big data companies need. We can't do everything just on one server with one core, just calculates everything and then it's done. That would take like a lot of time. So we need to do it in shards. So we don't do big data. I wouldn't call it that. But we do use big data techniques. Yeah.
So Tao, when I talked with you before the show about this topic, I asked you, so, how do you work within Get Your Guide to make this data smarter in order to give your customers, your users, the best experience? So what's the vision of Get Your Guide on that specific topic?
Well, I think for any e-commerce company or for any company where you try to sell something, it's about two things. Very simple. You try to get as many people to come to your place, and you try to make them buy something. So it's conversion rate. What does conversion rate mean? Conversion rate means you meet their expectations. So if you try to market something, you have even on Google, if you do in Google AdWords, you promise something, and if they come to your site and you don't meet that expectation, then they don't convert. And of course, you want them to come back. So in that sense, you need data around who am I marketing to? If he comes to my place, do I know what products or activities or inventory I want to surface to him? And how do I in the best way then make him do the transaction and have him come back later on? So in that sense, data is important because you might be interested in different things than Richard is. And you may be going to different places. So in that sense, data is important. But I think in the same vein, I wouldn't say big data is relevant because ultimately, big data, you're talking about hundreds of gigabytes, petabytes, and that's when, especially as a startup company, you have bigger fish to fry, right? I think ultimately, I think the big danger it's not a danger of big data, but I think the danger of talking about big data all the time is is you don't want premature optimization, right? So Donald Knuth always said, premature optimization is root of all evil, and that means what are we trying to solve, and more data is not going to solve the problem.
So you were touching upon the topic of mobile. So how does mobile, in that sense, make it harder or easier for you?
So mobile is interesting, right? Because you have a lot less property and surface area to work with. So you have to match the intent of the customer whose expectation trying to fulfill much more closely. So in that sense, data is more relevant in that I need to have a better concept. It doesn't mean I need more data, because ultimately, data is something you define, you classify, and then you add relevance. But you need a concept first, because otherwise data is just dead, right? So that means you need to have a stronger logic. If you have more data, that's great. You need to capture in some way, but first you need to understand in the mobile use case, what is the customer looking for? What's the state of mind? And then you try to work the data backwards and capture that, and then try to, you can use a desktop to gather data and then surface it on mobile. But I think that's where the challenge in mobile is. Yeah.
How do you look at that topic of mobile? Because you had a big update on in your app before. You could download guides, and now you actually have a big part that actually is online already. Only for premium content, you can sometimes add features and pay for that. So how has this development inside Triposo has been on how you look at mobile?
Well, we only do mobile, really. We have a website, but it's not what we do. We make mobile apps, and I fully agree that the important thing about mobile is that there's a smaller surface, so you need to be more relevant. And the only way to be more relevant is to know more. Well, you can have a better concept as well and just be smarter than the others. But if you know more about the user, and if you know more about the things to do, you can try and make sure that what you show to the user is spot on. And that's the real challenge of mobile. On a website, you can maybe show 20 things and hope that the user clicks, that's the one I like. On mobile, you need to make sure that everything you show is relevant. And I think you need data for that.
So let's do a very short class on mobile. So how do you approach that? What are the first steps that you've very recently published a new mobile app? But first, let's start with you. What are the first steps? How do you determine what is really important and what not? When do you validate, and how you then move on?
Well, if I go all the way back to the start, we started with just building one app. And I truly believe in that. If you want to see if something works, you should just try it. We started on Android, and we built just one travel guide for Zurich, I think.
For Zurich? Oh, that's funny.
Why?
Because they started there.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's not the reason why we did it.
It's a great city.
Okay,
it's a great city.
That's a coincidence, of course, right?
That is a coincidence, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So we built one for Zurich, and it was just an Android app, and we collected data from different sources, and you put it in the market and you see what happens. You see what is it that people are actually looking for when it comes to a travel guide, and you ask them for feedback, and you
ask them in what way?
Well,
on the street?
That's one way, having a big feedback button in the app and just say, okay, you want something better, just tell us.
Okay.
I mean, when we started out, it was just two guys. You can try and pretend like you're this $1 million company, but why? You can just ask people, how do you like the product that we make, and how do you think we can improve it? So I think it's very important, especially on mobile, to try to iterate, and because there isn't...
Okay.
To iterate fast and to look at the data and see, okay, what are the buttons that people don't click on them? Why don't they click on them? And then we do these video sessions where we just watch users use our app, and we see that they don't get stuff. Like the thing you just said about that before you could download our stuff and now you can't. You didn't quite say that. It's also not true, but it's true that a lot of users don't get some of the new stuff we did. And you can see that from the data, that they missed some of the more subtle points. And you can also see why they missed them if you just video how they use the app.
Can you add something, Tao, to this approach? Because I think that this is more or less nowadays the way how you build an app, right? Or do you have some more new insights on that?
So I think in the way that we're different is that So I think Richard with Trepozo is trying to solve a problem in a better way. Now for us is we already had an existing business case on the desktop, and the question was, do we think the business we have, where is it going to be in 10 years? And secondly, how can we make the experience on the desktop even better? And mobile in that sense fits checks both boxes, because one, tourist activities, or today's raining, I want to go to the museum instead. No, today's sunny, I want to do a river cruise on the Spree River. So in that sense, we strategically, it makes a ton of sense that in, I don't know, 2016, when roaming is down, you just pick up your mobile, you say, I'm Tao, I'm, I don't know, I'm this, and this, what should I do? This is great. So this was in terms of strategic positioning where we think it's important. Now, secondly, how can you make the desktop experience better and integrated? So for instance, I was talking earlier about planning and booking and going and sharing. Now, traditionally in the activities space, so when you actually go on a tour, when you go to a museum, when you actually jump off the park-in building, highly recommended. If you do that, then while you're doing it, nothing is happening. It's super offline. Now, if you have a mobile, you can save your ticket there. You could, I don't know, once the tour is over, you can immediately ask for feedback. You can get in touch with the other guys on the group. So there's a lot of things you can do where mobile adds to the experience. So this is why we thought, mobile is something we have to do.
Yeah, that I understand. But how did you analyze that? I mean, how did you analyze that these were the needs of the people?
Well, in any startup, you have to take a bet, and then you gather the data and you see if your bet is true. You start with an assumption, you start with a hypothesis. Our hypothesis A is strategically we hope that in 5 years it's going to be big. That's why I'm sitting here and trying to sell it to you, but I don't know, right? So you make a bet, that's one. And the second thing is you speak to customers and see what you think will add to the experience. I mean, so we speak to customers a lot. So the benefit of being a transactional company is they call you all the time. And then you can call them back and ask them, hey, what about, if you could do this and this? And then based on their feedback, you try to come up with a product that will delight them, hopefully. Something
more personal, maybe, because your startup is rather old, right? I mean, I don't want to go into the topic of what a startup actually is, but when did you start?
Difficult question. So we had a student project in 2008. That was when we did a peer-to-peer activities website. But really starting is end of 2009, when we quit our jobs, quit our PhDs, quit our unemployment, and and did this thing. So that's when we really actually rented an office and worked full-time on it. So that was end of 2009.
What is by far the hardest of startup life for you?
It depends. I think it's a personal question. I think it depends on what you're good at and what you're not good at. If you're a person who's great at tech, then maybe it's the other stuff where you have to manage people. If you're a people person, it's about strategy and maybe concepts. I think it's a very personal question. I think for me, so our founder DNA is very technical. So we all scientists and physicists and economists and biologists. And I think for us was about getting a grasp of the business, what it actually means, accounting, cash flow, what is that, and managing people. I mean, we're very young, and I think that's a handicap actually.
What was one of the biggest mistake that you made in handling personnel or hiring, firing?
A ton, right? So we're always joking that we could, write a book about the top 50 mistakes you can do. I think there's a ton of them. I think the one I can think of is the classic Berlin mistake. Which is you hire a ton of interns and hope that they can do the work of real people. But at the end of the day, it's like Groupon. You get what you pay for. So I think this is one mistake. And then there are many, right? I mean, there's a ton of mistakes you do about personal decisions, about overcoming the personal inhibitions of saying no. I think people are born and wired to be nice, to be liked. I want to be liked by you. That's why I'm saying nice things to you. But at the end of the day, in a business, you have to say what is true and what you believe in, what will drive the company forward. And I think these are things that are just difficult. And then when you don't do that, you make mistakes because you set wrong expectations. You're the best engineer ever, and I build a future in you, and I don't believe it. And then you just get into problems.
Richard? I mean, you had like this, you sold a company already, you had a little bit more experience, but are there still things that you find very difficult in how to handle your company?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult. running a company. It's one thing that I'd like to add is if you run a startup, it doesn't stop. You get up in the morning and before you go to the toilet, you're thinking about your product. And
then you have a really long shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay.
But you're still thinking about the product, and it just doesn't stop, and it doesn't stop in the weekends. And I remember when I went, I had a holiday. I had planned it a long time in advance, even before we founded a company. But then it sort of coincided with the moment we had to get all the autographs for our Series A. And I was in a campsite in France with my family, and I was only there in the office scanning stuff and calling people in the US, and it was like completely ridiculous, and my family hated me. But wow, now they love me again.
Oh, why?
After a while, I tried to
They
be nice
adjust.
as well.
You didn't adjust. They adjusted.
No, I adjust as well. You learn that sometimes you just have to say, okay, now I'm turning off my phone and I'm going to do this for an hour, and then I'm back to start again.
Thank you so much, Richard and Tao. Give it up for them, ladies and gentlemen. In every Friday at 6 show, there is only one pitch slot. That means that only one startup company gets the chance to pitch for this live audience. And we do sometimes have some investors in the audience and that come up to the pitch and say, hey, let's have a talk. So it's really worthwhile your time. Tonight, we have a very exciting company. Give it up for Daniel Ried.
Thanks. Hi. As you've heard, I'm Daniel, co-founder of Flux, and I'm going to tell you how we're going to simplify your communication. So just imagine the picture of your personal cloud, where you have pictures in Instagram and files on Dropbox and communication over Facebook and LinkedIn, and all of this is in one cloud, and it's your personal cloud in future. Just imagine I give you a tool you can run the whole system with. And this is what we do actually. So we focus first on contacts and messages, means your communication over the networks. That means we build a tool which helps you to communicate. Just imagine that we are drowning in messages. Just look at your mobile phones. So many apps, so many messages. We don't have an overview. We don't have really help to focus. We don't have really help to prioritize. We are really totally lost. And we have different devices which we are using. Just imagine that picture. Where did Peter send me that message with the phone number? When we just log into Gmail, internet breaks down. Any familiar? So actually, I'm in that world as well. And we built Flux as the answer to this. Just imagine Flux is an app on your device, whatever device. It runs and you can seamlessly send and receive messages to and from all your contacts over all networks. That means you have one interface, everything is in, and it is on top people-centric. So we change to the world of what is now Facebook already doing, or your SMS or WhatsApp world. So it's about the people and the communication with the people. And you would see a stream of communication over all networks in one view. So this is really the future. And it doesn't matter if you look on your smartphone or if you go into your office on your computer. It's all there. And that's possible because it's a new breed of software. So it's a web app, yes, but you would not recognize that it is a web app. It runs as good as a native app. So we use the latest web technology and front-end technology to make that happen. So there is no installation in the end. There is no backup necessary. You can just go on the page and then you have your Flux available for you. And this is possible as well because there's a database behind which makes it personal. So there is a tiny little Fort Knox of yours, which is your personal cloud, and you decide if it is on a server in Hamburg or with your best friend in Munich or anywhere in the world. So we have a server and a database system which allows us to be very flexible with it. And on top of that, that's for me, it's the most exciting thing. We don't hard code for you the connectors to the networks. We give you some. We give you Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. But the beauty is we give you a system, and even if you're not a developer, you can build your own connections. That means you can plug in whatever communication network you are dealing with. You can plug it into Flux and just use it. It's an open platform approach. So if you're excited about it, if you want to know more about it, we soon launch the alpha. You can go to get-flux.com. You can talk to me anytime. We are looking for funding right now. So if you're excited, I would love to share my passion with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Daniel from Flux. Get in touch with him if you want to know more. My next two guests are both pretty high up. You could say Ijat Madish of ResearchGate has some pretty impressive backers, and Jürgen Müller of SAP is the new managing director of the Innovation Center, which means, of course, for SAP that this is a very strategic position. So give it up, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome for Ijat and Jürgen. I don't know if you could hear that in the background, but I think that Ijat has brought a lot of employees that were all cheering very loud for him. They all get a raise, right? This is the way how you do it at ResearchGate.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes, sometimes you have to say no. That's what we learned from the last conversation. So welcome both to the FridayatSix show. Especially, I must say, Jürgen, because you're so nice to host us here at SAP. We're not in the Innovation Center. If you want to see what it looks like over there, go to the website because we've made a clip of that. But I mean, what is the problem that SAP has that they have to, mind all these tiny, small, little companies that people call startups?
It's not a problem SAP has. So what we do is SAP has ambitious goals till 2015. So what SAP wants to achieve is to have 20 billion revenue, to have 1 billion users, to have a margin of 35%. And SAP is well known for large companies. So SAP is a large company, is achieving that processes in all large companies run very smoothly. I'm with SAP since September 1st, so I'm learning each and every day. And what, for example, was very astonishing to me is that worldwide revenue, 74% of worldwide revenue.
We're not going to do the whole yearly summit with all these numbers. We have had now more numbers in 2 sentences that we had in the entire history of FridayatSix. I mean, you have to buy a lot of startups for that if you want to achieve all these goals.
No, we want to enable others.
Okay. So what's the strategy here?
The strategy, for example, we launched the Startup Focus Program. The strategy is that we give startups technology, SAP HANA, as the in-memory database and data platform, and then enable them with access to technology, to market, to VCs, investment funds. Yeah.
First of all, Ijat, how you look at SAP? I mean, it's maybe the first German company that was based on IT and conquered the world. Maybe they're still the only one, you could say. So do you look at them as, oh, okay, they're doing some pretty good things over there?
No, not really. No, it's not my space. I'm focused on science.
But also a little bit on IT, right? I mean, there is this little social network with scientists that you're building.
Yeah. No. I'm honest in these things. I don't have an opinion to everything, right? Like many people sit here and think, oh, I have an opinion. ASAP should do this, should do that. They are like this or they're like that. I don't have any opinion on this.
Okay, that's very clear. It's also very, very straightforward. Jürgen, do you want to say something on that? Do you have an opinion on ResearchGate, or also not an opinion on ResearchGate? Because maybe we can just stop and end this whole conversation. We can do that. We have pizza.
Okay, let's stop here.
Oh, it's a good alternative, but no, I tried also. Now, for me, so I finished my PhD. Not that interesting anymore, but while you do your research, while you do your PhD, I think it's very good. And I came from Las Vegas today and from London to Berlin. There was here in The Economist, the title is How Science Goes Wrong. So it's mainly about, there are many papers and experiments, but you cannot validate them. So 3/4 of them cannot be validated. And perhaps ResearchGate or others can help getting things right again in science.
So you think it's an interesting product?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a nice thing that he just said, Ijaz, right? He just said something, and it's so easy. He did it for free, even.
Yeah.
We're drinking his beer tonight.
That's good. I like him as well.
Yeah.
That's
Okay. Well, let's go. Let's just move on. I mean, you got some investment from famous American investors, Matt Kohler, who's going to be filthy rich in 2 weeks when Twitter does its IPO. A lot of people ask you about that. And actually, when you were in the FridayatSix show before, more than 1 year ago, you also told this story of how you almost, and I think this is so amazing, you almost canceled the partner meeting at Benchmark because you had a party the next day and you thought, oh, I mean, yeah, whatever, I want to go party.
Yeah. Correct. I didn't know who he was. This was my problem. And
You didn't know what Benchmark was?
No, I didn't know what Benchmark was.
You didn't know what a partner meeting was?
I didn't know what a partner meeting was. And then I got an email from this guy and he said, hey, can we meet? I said, no, I don't have time. I have to go back to Boston. There was the Memorial Day weekend where all the parties at Harvard are. So I wanted to go back. And I said, sorry, I don't have time. I'm flying back tomorrow. And then I called a friend of mine and he said, are you crazy? This is Matt Kohler. Don't know him? He's like the second employee of Facebook and co-founder of LinkedIn. I said, oh, okay, sounds important. But then I met him. But this same thing did not happen when I met Bill Gates. So I knew who was Bill Gates.
Because he's also among one of the co-investors, right? He also put some money.
The last series, which we just closed recently, he was one of the lead investors.
Yeah. So what is it that the problem that ResearchGate is trying to solve? Because your story was at that time, I want to go for a Nobel Prize. These are my ambitions. They like that story a lot. Do you think that you're succeeding nowadays to really, I mean, a lot of scientists are on there, but are also like the best scientists on ResearchGate? Is it really going in that direction that you maybe in the end can say, because of ResearchGate, these guys won a Nobel Prize?
Oh, there are so many numbers which I could mention, but I think the best number is when we started and the Nobel Prizes were announced, none of the Nobel laureates were on ResearchGate. And this year, 40% of all the announced Nobel laureates were on ResearchGate and using it. It's the first step. But we had already, and I think this is what we want to change, right? Science goes wrong and many people don't know what is going wrong. We know it and we have a great team trying to change this. And we have already many success stories where two scientists from two different countries met on ResearchGate, found a new infectious pathogen, and
But you want more. You want way more than that.
Oh, that's already a lot, right? Like if you but of course, we want definitely more. We want to change how science works, right? The whole foundation, the whole fundament of science has to change. I don't know, most of the people know that the World Wide Web was originally developed for science. And we're trying to give the meaning back because you can do everything with the World Wide Web now, buying shoes, buying coupons. But this is something what you cannot do. And this
people are very good at that in Berlin. You know that, right?
Yes, this is what we also want to change. To build a startup which changes the world. And I think we are on a very good track.
Yeah. So more about the product that the Startup Center has. The goal is, to be more innovative, but this is of course so broad. So the question is then, if it is so broad, can you then really get this focus inside of the company to really turn stuff around? Is that really possible at SAP? Are you convinced of that fact?
Yes, I am. So since a couple of months, SAP has a new leader for the complete development, and he is restructuring much. So SAP is also going through an intellectual renewal, he says, and I now more and more learn what it is about. It really changes, and it becomes more innovative. SAP gets things done in a very short amount of time, so it's very good to see that.
Because we saw one of the examples, and that was that you are now, as one of the few VCs, not directly part of SAP, but Happy Ventures, the money of the same guy, of Hasso Plattner, had the convertible loans. Within a couple of weeks, they decide on, who we give investment to. I mean, SAP for a lot of people is like an invisible giant, right? It's B2B software, it's administration, not very sexy. But are there maybe signs that we as just normal human beings can also be aware of after, let's say, like 2 years, that we see, SAP, this giant company, has indeed changed things?
Yeah, SAP is more and more going in these directions, for example, with sports and entertainment. So there are fan apps. We work with the German Soccer Association, DFB. We work with Hoffenheim, so with clubs, to organize them and to also have a better fan experience, for example. Mm-hmm. So these, for example, are touch points where consumers come in. But SAP is a B2B2C company, so we support businesses to run very good and have success by delivering the best products, best services to the customers.
Yeah. Is one of your goals also to change mentality within SAP? Because you mentioned how long it takes before something gets going. How are you planning to do that?
So we are just a small group.
No, not going to make yourself smaller than you are now. I mean, the building alone costed 15 million euros in Potsdam,
you
right?
saw the building, yeah. In the moment, we are like 45 full-time employees, 40 students. We do not do the Groupon stuff, but they, while being in the university, can work with us and get to know SAP. So we are like on the edge, and we are not too close to the mothership. Because this is, you have like 20,000 developers, but we can also not be too far away. So we are like in the middle and getting things done very quickly. Yeah. And this also transforms to other locations within SAP.
Yeah. So you have these people in Heidelberg, in Deutschland, right? That's far away. That's in the deep south.
You mean the headquarters?
Yeah, the headquarters.
In Waldorf. Yeah.
It's Waldorf.
Yeah, even Waldorf, not even Heidelberg. Yeah.
No, okay, but sorry, my mistake.
No
so you have these very nice folks over there, right? So how are they going to, be influenced by this center in Potsdam? How are you going to make them maybe a little bit, work more efficiently or more faster? I don't know what the goals are.
Here we can try things out. So we, for example, try out different organizational structures. So we learned in the talk before that management is important, that how you do things is important. We can try out new things because we are a bit separate, but we also feedback to the mothership.
Okay, for me it's still a little bit general, but maybe you can think about another answer when I ask Iyad another question. How do you prioritize?
I'll give you an example then.
Yeah, example works. So how do you prioritize between science and business? Because you already said in an interview, if I put ads on the platform, we will be break even. At the same time, break even is not really exciting because you want to invest in what you already have and don't chase people away. So how do you make these decisions on a daily basis?
The cool thing in science is that these two things are so strongly connected that you don't really have to make decisions. You have to decide which things you want to approach first. In science, you're so heavily depending on lab equipment, on the new jobs you want to look for, conferences you're visiting, etc., etc. So many things from the other side, from the corporate side, and we try to connect these two different worlds, like academia and industry, stronger, which helps both. So it's not, we're building a product for the whole scientific world. This is why we don't have to make, big decisions. This is the cool thing. If you want to build a product, you have to build a product and not divide business from product development. It's the same thing.
And how does this affect you on a daily basis? Does it mean that you have only one goal and that this is something that you run after and that's it?
Yeah, we have one mission and we have a fantastic team of now 120 people and some people are here. We give a lot of responsibility to the team itself and to the different people within the teams. We don't have a strong hierarchy, so the guys and the people, try to by what they're doing, getting their responsibilities and understanding what they have to do. So on a daily basis, we're planning not more. I don't know, like maybe 3 months. That's
three months ahead.
Yeah.
This is long.
Okay. This is long at SAP. 3 months ahead.
Not in whole SAP. You cannot do that. So
okay.
You have many products and so on. So you have to be trustworthy to a customer. But I wanted to give you an example. We started working with the Hasso-Plattner Institute, the university, in May, showed a demo where you have point of sale data. So everything, when you buy something in a shop, large German retailer, 4 billion records. And they want to analyze that in all dimensions. Now we got much traction because 100,000 people saw that. And someone else came now and said, hey, I want to do that. I have 8 billion sales records. And I need this in 6 weeks.
And you did that. You pulled that off.
We are now in week 2.
You're now in week 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we have a team here, we have a team in Palo Alto, and the Innovation Center also has a team in Waldorf. So we are very well connected, and we get this done.
Yeah. And how is that different than before? Wasn't it then not even possible to get in touch with you? Didn't the phone work, or what was the problem back then?
If you have normal product cycles, this is like 18 months or so. SAP brought this down to like 7 months, but it's not 6 weeks.
Aha. I have to ask you something about the Startup Focus program, because I've talked to a lot of startups that are part of that program or were interested in that program. And you give them HANA for free, right? So this whole database, you give them for free.
Yeah.
But not entirely for free, right? Because you have to take it after you're done with the program, after 3 years,
You
right?
can opt out.
You can't opt out, okay.
Yeah. We cannot force anyone. So
Okay.
either it makes sense, this is why we work with startups. We want to have immediate feedback.
Okay.
And startups, they cannot just do that because they are nice.
Yeah.
They have to decide, is this the right thing for me? Does it help or doesn't it help?
So you are aware of the fact that people are sometimes a little bit suspicious of, why does SAP want to work with me? Do I have to buy these really expensive products after 3 years, are locked in with only SAP? You understand these concerns sometimes?
Sure.
What do you do about it?
We show them what we have, what technology we have. They evaluate this, and hopefully it's the best technology they can use for the problem they have, and then for sure they stick to this.
You were working before at the Institute for Design Thinking, right? You had the chair, the personal. Can you explain what you did before there?
Yeah, let me explain. We have the Hasso-Plattner Institute,
Right.
and there are 10 professors. One of them is running the Hasso-Plattner School of Design Thinking.
Right.
I've been at the chair of Hasso-Plattner.
Right.
We do in-memory data management.
Yeah.
And I did my PhD there, and then for 1.5 years was together with Jens Krüger, another guy, the chair representative. So we took care that even when Hasso-Plattner is not there, everything is running fine.
Right. You know Hasso-Plattner very well.
Well,
Yeah. Have you been in his house in Potsdam?
yes.
Did you have beers with him?
Cocktails,
Cocktails. Okay.
but also beers.
So, how does he work? What does he think of Berlin, of Germany, of startups in Europe? How does he get passionate about that?
Yeah, he's very passionate about startups. And he started as a startup 41 years ago. SAP did not have an office. So they worked at other customers building their stuff. And because of the fact that startups have these restrictions, there's not much space for becoming fat and slow. And it's a very good education. So what is brilliant is that he has the vision, and at the same time is still totally in the technology. So he is deep down to technology, can explain everything of the HANA database to you.
Yeah. So Ijat, we're almost at the end of the interview. Then we can listen to some open mic statements and eat some pizza and drink some beers. I mean, where will ResearchGate be at in 2 years? Almost all scientists that you want to have are then signed up on the platform. What will you do then? Because there are then so many opportunities. What's your grand vision in about 2 years?
I don't know. It's too complicated. It changes. Of course, I have a big vision, but things are changing so fast. And I don't know what, if you have this platform of very smart people, you don't know what is going to happen with it, what they're going to do with it. We just know right now it's cool. Everyone is using it. Everyone likes it. And the press is amazing. And the product is amazing, which we have built. I hope in 2 years we have more than half of all the scientists in the world now in the network. I hope we have all of them in 2 years, and I think we will have many scientific breakthroughs happening only because of the fact we're connecting the right people with the right data.
Yeah, and coming out of Berlin still then by that time.
Definitely, yeah.
I don't know if I asked that because I think that would be very important for Berlin or that it would be strategically wise. I don't know. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I thought about it 3 years ago when I moved from Boston to Berlin. I think it was definitely the right decision. We wouldn't have been so far how we were now if we would have stayed in San Francisco, if we went or Boston. I think this was definitely the right decision. But we still have to prove that internet startup, which really is world changing, can emerge out of the Berlin startup scene.
Yeah. I want to give you a last chance to make up with Jürgen. because you were not so nice to him at the beginning of the... Did he
Really?
say
I was-
anything that
I
you
was
thought
nice.
was... What
I was honest.
Not neutral, I would say.
Let's ask the audience later. But is there anything interesting that he just said? Do you want to comment on something?
Perhaps I can add that this database also has a graph engine, so I would assume that you're building a huge graph.
Oh yeah, we have the strongest engineers here in this room.
Perfect.
from our-
Then we sync up later.
Yes, sing with them and see if we can work somewhere together. They're hiding now.
Okay, so before we go to the open mic, I want to have a big round of applause for Iyad and Jürgen, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So after the music, we're going to party, like I just said. But before the music, we have this open mic thing. I got a couple of emails, and now sometimes it gets awkward because if you want to say something, go over to the mic and just share something. Is there somebody who wants to tell something about his startup? Is there somebody ready to go to the open mic and to say, hey, this is me, I'm doing that startup, and I want you to all know about that. Okay.
Apparently it is.
Go ahead.
All right. Did you know that more than 95% of all startups fail? Further, according to one of the largest surveys in Europe conducted on small and medium-sized companies, the number one issue for growth on small companies is actually people issues. As of today, we're launching Node. Node brings structure to fast-growing startups by writing position plans on each person in an organization. And we're here looking for a business case in Berlin, looking for fast startups or stakeholders of such. And we really think that we are onto something big here. Tackling the issues with organizations designs could be solved in somewhat more than just bringing in some external models or just posting one more benchmark project. We think that the solution is a lot within the minds of each employee, which is within each node, as we say. We believe it's in the node. So come and visit us at it'sinthenode.com and or hook up after here with me. Thanks.
I'm looking at the microphone. No other people there at the microphone. So this was it for this month. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. We'll be back on the 22nd of November. Then we will do a show at Google. The guy from Google for Entrepreneurs is there, and Fabian Heilemann is there of Heilemann Ventures, also working on some pretty interesting projects. But as always, we're going to close this show with some live music. So I want to ask our wonderful musician to come forward and to play some more music. And he is doing this very weird mix. Oh, weird, I mean this very special mix of rumba, gypsy, and the last Oriental. Thank you so much, Jürgen. But I think it's actually pretty cool that he came out here tonight and played for us. They're always smoking outside, but no problem.
Exactly.
Ah, yeah, you were talking, right? Okay, no problem. Okay, thank you. See you next month. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Super. Kannst du den haben? Ich hab's schon gelesen. Ja, danke.
Way يلا ظني تنساني تنسى وقتي واحساني ونعود غريب براني والولفة كيف سهل والفراق ما قدرت عنه والولفة كيف سهل والفراق ما قدرت عنه الدنيا كل شي فاني ما يدوم إلا الرحمن أو هو ارجح مزاوالي أو رحيم الرحمن العفو نرتجي منه أو رحيم الرحمن العفو نرتجي منه لا 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 والله ما نسيت عنابة الغالية كونستانتين وستيفن خلية أو بلادي نارها في قلبي قافية والولفة كيف سهل والفراق ما قدرت عنه والولفة كيف سهل والفراق ما قدرت أي بكي اللي بكاني ويوري اللي وراني أو ويخلي كما خلى هذه أو اللي يعذبك يا قلبي تركن لي ما يبانوا واللي يعذبك يا قلبي تركن لي ما يبانوا أي لي 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 شلت لحياني أو واللي يغرمنا متاني أكرني ويهبك حالي والولفة كيف سهل والفراق ما قدرت عنه والولفة كيف سهل والفراق ما قدرت وهران عاوزين البلداني أو اللي يغرم مداني أكرني وهي بكالي وانا جرى بيا ما جرى الكسي بزمانه أنا جرى بيا ما جرى كسي بزمانه